Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Tales of Herding God Part 98 based on novel. So let's start. Qin Mu's heart trembled slightly when he guessed how Dao Master was so sure that he was the human emperor of the current generation. He had only learned 2 moves from village chief's sword picture, and he didn't use them much. Other than executing it in front of Emperor Yangfeng, an imperial preceptor, he had only used them in front of Pangong Tso and Daozi Lin Xian. When Daozi Lin Xian had followed Dan Yangzi to block the gate of Imperial College, he was defeated under the first move of sword picture, sword treading mountains and rivers. When he returned back to Dao Sect, he must have shown Qin Mu's sword treading mountains and rivers. Dao Master must have more or less known that Qin Mu's sword skills came from village chief, but he couldn't confirm Qin Mu was the human emperor of the current generation. As for why he had such a confident tone, he was actually testing the waters. Qin Mu's thoughts were also meticulous, but even though he guessed Dao Master's thoughts, he didn't deny and also went to fetch some water for the Solomon's seal while saying with a smile, "Dao Master possesses remarkable abilities, and your wisdom surpasses others." Dao Master and Daozi Lin Xian were using leaves to carry water while he used his vital qi to sweep up the spring water, which was more convenient and much faster. Old Dao Master saw him using vital qi and said, "Dao follows the nature. Human emperor, what's the rush?" Qin Mu said, "Being free from nature, we should apply what we learn." Since Dao Master is not applying, why did he have to learn? Dao Master frowned, but his eyebrows soon smoothed out again and he smiled. The disagreement of our sects comes from our ideals and how we conduct ourselves in society. I won't debate with you over the teachings of Dao Sect and Heavenly Devil cult. Human emperor has withdrawn from worldly affairs for several hundred years, yet his student has come back. You must be planning something, am I right? Qin Mu used his vital qi to control the flow of the water, then said seriously, "What can I be planning?" Village chief said that the human emperor is a responsibility, but until now, I still don't understand what good can come from being the human emperor. First, there's no authority, and second, there's no power, yet I still have to carry responsibility. If Dao Master is willing, I could give it up to you. Dao Master was watering the Solomon's seals with the leaf when his expression changed slightly. He hurriedly shook his head. I can't shoulder this responsibility. One of them used a leaf, while the other a spell to water the Solomon's seals. Daozi Lin Xian took it all in and shook his head secretly. This old and young both had their own stubborn viewpoints, and were very obstinate. After a time it takes for an incense stick to burn, Qin Mu finished watering all the Solomon's seals. Old Dao Master also planted the leaf he used to carry water back into the soil and stretched his back with a sigh. I'm old and my bones aren't like they used to be. Since human emperor is the cult master of Heavenly Devil cult, Dao Sect won't be able to go against human emperor anymore. This old Dao came to find human emperor to identify his successor to human emperor. Lin Xian had also paid his respects to you just now, and after I die, he will become Dao Master. Qin Mu greeted Lin Xian, and Lin Xian immediately returned his greeting. I'm not Dao Master, I dare not accept. Old Dao Master smiled. After you become Dao Master, you will still be half a seniority lower, so you will have salute half a hand lower. Lin Xian was shocked. Old Dao Master said in a neither too fast nor too slow voice, us who cultivate qi have received grace from the human emperor of the first generation, so everyone respects him. Each and every clan and sect had taken out their best treasure at that time to create human emperor's seal. So you must follow the etiquette, and can't be negligent. Could old Dao take a look at the seal? Qin Mu took out the black lump, which was human emperor's seal, and tossed it to him. Old Dao Master caught it in a panic, his face was twitching slightly. How could you toss it? How could you toss it? Before this old Dao came to meet human emperor, I had washed myself and changed my clothes, and even my hands were washed several times. I was reverent and respectful, not daring to be negligent, so how could you just toss human emperor's seal like this? Qin Mu was bewildered and said, village chief had tossed it to me like this. I didn't want it, so I tossed it back at him, yet he stuffed it back to me. I couldn't defeat him, so I could only accept it. Old Dao Master had a bitter face, as he held human emperor's seal in both of his hands. He examined it over and over again, and verified that it was indeed the seal. Human emperor, please take it back. Once he said that, he took a step forward and offered human emperor's seal respectfully in both of his hands. Only when Qin Mu took back human emperor's seal did the old Daoist take a step back and placed his hands down. He said to Daozi Lin Xian, remember, human emperor's seal can only be received like this, you can't mess up the etiquette. Daozi Lin Xian acknowledged this while watching Qin Mu toss human emperor's seal into his Dao Tai sack. However, Lin Xian didn't dare to say anything. He is the human emperor, he can be disrespectful, but we can't be disrespectful. Old Dao Master put a lot of effort into saying, that seal was created from the best treasures of our ancestors from various sects and various clans. It was offered to the human emperor, and the person who controls the seal will become the emperor of all the human races. Therefore, our Dao sect has to be respectful. This seal is what we offered to the human emperor, so the human emperor can be disrespectful to this seal. Do you understand? Daozi Lin Xian nodded. Disciple understood. Qin Mu couldn't help feeling slightly moved. Old Dao Master was left with little of his lifespan, his life coming to an end in the next few years, yet he still dedicated his full attention to teaching his disciple. This kind of traditional master and disciple relationship had it much easier to produce outstanding talents. Old Dao Master was already old, so he had to be hoping to groom Daozi in these final years, allowing him to succeed him. What else did Dao Master come here to say, besides inquiring about human emperor's seal? Qin Mu asked with a smile. Old Dao Master looked him deeply in the eyes and said, human emperor should know that the reform of eternal peace imperial preceptor, and Emperor Yangfeng isn't the orthodox path, and will bring the wrath of heaven. This snow disaster was a warning, so for all the people in the world, human emperor should stop this reform. Qin Mu shook his head. The general situation of the world is rolling forth like a flood. May the deceased rest in peace while the living move on with their lives. Whoever dares to stand in front to block the path will be crushed. I can only go with the flow, along with the flood. Old senior brother, you have already suffered quite a lot. Why are you still so stubborn? Old Dao Master sighed. I won't argue with you. No matter how we'd argue, it's still about the teachings of both sides, so it's hard to convince the other. That's why it's better to not argue at all. Since you are insistent on supporting imperial preceptor's reform, I will only say one thing to you. Dao follows the nature, and the reform seeks to change Dao, to change nature. God is born in nature and formed by the great Dao. If you want to change Dao, you know its advantages and disadvantages. Great ruins was the mistake of our predecessors, but human emperor should have noticed that by now. Qin Mu was slightly stunned. Dao Master obviously knew more inside stories about this. However, Dao Master wasn't willing to speak more about it and said, I came to see human emperor and express my intentions. Dao sect is enemy with eternal peace, but we won't be enemies with human emperor. Disciple, bring 14 writings of Dao sword over. Lin Xian took out a stone tablet from a leather sack around his waist. That stone tablet was 6 yards tall when taken out, and on it was some sword markings drawn vertically and horizontally. Lin Xian hesitated. Dao Master. Show him, said old Dao Master. Old human emperor's sword skills are better than mine and even more superior. I've shown Imperial Preceptor the 14 writings of Dao Sword, so why can't I show them to the current human emperor? Daozi Lin Xian erected the stone tablet nearby. An old Dao master said, 14 writings of Dao Sword, one writing for one sword. When Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor came to Dao Sect to seek knowledge, I let him look for 14 days. So I will let human emperor look for 14 days as well. As for the pre-celestial supreme mystery technique of our Dao Sect, I won't be showing it to human emperor. Qin Mu revealed an expression of astonishment. Old Rulai had also allowed him to see Rulai's Mahayana Sutra, however, he only showed him the skills and not the technique. Now Dao Master was allowing him to see the technique of pre-celestial supreme mystery technique, but not showing him the skill. No matter what, both masters of the two sacred grounds were broad-minded. Qin Mu muttered to himself irresolutely, and took out great educational heavenly devil scriptures. I'm not used to receiving favors from others, so this is great educational heavenly devil scriptures. I will allow Daozi to read for 14 days. Daozi Lin Xian's heart was quite moved, and he looked toward his master. Old Dao Master's face changed slightly, and he muttered to himself before saying, since he let you read, you will read. If great educational heavenly devil scriptures contain good, you are a god. If it contains evil, you are devil. If you fall and become the devil, it just means your cultivation was not enough, your nature was not enough. Daozi Ling Xian understood. Qin Mu sat in front of the stone wall and looked at the sword traces on the stone wall. These sword traces were vertical and horizontal, and didn't look like they had any pattern to them. When he looked at the first one, he didn't see anything wonderful about it, but once he put his mind to it, he gradually felt some wonderful sword will. In his eyes, the sword trace was no longer a sword trace, but seemed to have some mathematical reasonings. There seemed to be a Daoist scribbling with a brush and writing down the reasonings of algebra. It was then gradually transformed into a black and white THG diagram that was stirring up. A dot threading the vast movements, yin and yang come and go within two modes. Qin Mu's heart slightly trembled. The cultivation method of Dao sword was indeed different from other, and an extremely deep sword will was carved into the sword trace on the wall. This sword will contained mathematical reasonings, and formed the first form of Dao sword. The mathematical reasonings contained in Dao sword's first form was the yin and yang calculation of the binary system. This can be compared with computational canon of supreme mystery. Qin Mu's mind was slightly stirred. He had comprehended most of computational canon of supreme mystery, so the first form wasn't hard for him. Not long after, Qin Mu finished comprehending the first form of Dao sword and turned to look at the second sword trace. The second form of Dao sword, binding of 5 qi and 3 eons, rising on the spot, cloud chariots crossing. This sword trace contained a ternary system and a quinary system, which correspond to 3 eons and 5 qi. The mathematical reasoning behind this move would construct the sun, moon, and earth, while the 5 qi would face the eons. This move wasn't considered difficult for Qin Mu as well. He used the time it takes for an incense stick to burn to finish comprehending this move, before going to look at the third sword trace. The third form of Dao sword, 5 colored auspicious clouds cover, celestial sounds tinkling on the 3 heavens. This move also used 3 eons and 5 qi, however, it was superior, and included the transformation of 3 eons and 5 qi. Qin Mu spent a whole hour to finish comprehending this move. The fourth form of Dao sword, turning heavenly cycle silently, meeting every manifestation of nature shifting. The mathematical reasoning in this move was extremely complicated, and interrelated with the mathematical reasoning of 3 producing all things. Using computational canon of supreme mystery to understand the marvel of this move was extremely difficult. When Qin Mu solved the marvel of this sword trace, he realized that the sun was about to set into the sea. The sky was already turning dark, and the island was all red from the shine of the red sun on the surface of the sea. I won't be able to solve the fifth writing. Qin Mu's expression turned grave. Dao sword was harder and harder to learn as he progressed, and the mathematical reasonings became more and more profound. It was impossible to completely learn everything in 14 days. He might not even be able to learn the fifth writing. He could only choose to comprehend the sword wills and learn the sword skills. As for the other writings, he had no time to learn them and could only see how much he could comprehend. Qin Mu thought this, then immediately looked toward the fifth sword trace. The fifth form of Dao sword, Jade Cave taking back myriad of transformations, romance on Kunlun Mountains. He put his heart to comprehend, but the mathematical reasonings in the sword will were already too hard for him to understand. Even though computational canon of supreme mystery was mostly comprehended by him, there was still some mathematical reasoning not included in there. He reckoned they should be in computational canon of mysterious lady. Dao Master was sitting to the side, calm and composed. He seemed to not know what was hunger. Qin Mu was hungry, and went down the stone wall to find Ling Yuxiu and Sai Yinxiang. The two girls were already done preparing dinner. They asked him about the stranger, and when they heard that it was Dao Master, the two girls were both astonished and didn't dare to be impudent. When the third day came, Fan Yunxiao flew his ship over and suddenly cried out loud. He kowtowed several times to Dao Master. Old Dao Master opened his eyes and took a look at him with a calm expression. You joined Heavenly Devil cult. I was indeed right about you, your heart is indeed not righteous. Go, I won't kill you. Fan Yunxiao bawled, then wiped his tears while driving the ship away. 5 days after Fan Yunxiao left, numerous people in strange outfits started to appear on the small island. They were male, female, young, and old. One person had come over first and planted a flag on the island. Then, numerous lights flashed and more flags appeared. Once the flags were put away, several hundred people appeared and sat down around this island. The positions of everyone sitting were different, and they were all scattered about like stars in the sky, not moving at all. However, every 4 hours, these people would stand up and change their positions. This regular pattern never changed. Under the shade of the tree, Long Jianan shuddered and walked to the center of the island. Sai Yinxiang was very happy on the other hand, making meals for everyone in case they were hungry. Ling Yuxiu had a grave expression as she examined her surroundings. She could see that this was a huge formation which trapped all of them on the island, not giving them the chance to leave. If one was to barge out of this formation, the formation would activate and transform into a killing formation, turning this island into a scene of carnage. When this huge formation was activated, it would definitely be incomparably terrifying. Furthermore, Ling Yuxiu even saw some of the weird people wearing clothes of the imperial court. Some were high officials of the current imperial court, some were peddlers in the market, some executioners in charge of beheadings, and even directorates of imperial college. They were all fantastic oddities of every description. The most intriguing thing was that these people were changing their positions every 4 hours to change the formation. This should be to prevent Dao Master from solving the changes of the formation. Heavenly Devil Cult is no doubt the #1 sect of the Devil Path, your timings are very precise. Old Dao Master was examining this killing formation, and he couldn't help exclaiming to himself endlessly, I can calculate the changes in the formation in precisely 4 hours, and they change the formation at precisely this moment. Formation Hall Master is really crafty. Formation Hall Master was the directorate of Imperial College's Hall of Array Element, and was bestowed the role of an Imperial Secretary by Emperor Yangfeng. He was a favorite of the Emperor, and was frequently summoned to the palace to be consulted with matters of the Empire. Even though the Emperor didn't give him any actual power due to the fact he was from Heavenly Devil Cult, most of the formations in the army were designed by him. It seemed like Formation Hall Master had knowledge about old Dao Master, so as long as Qin Mu was in trouble, he would definitely not allow him to leave alive. If he was to leave, he had to be dead. The 14th day came in no time, and Qin Mu shut his eyes. After a moment, he opened them and came from the stone tablet. He saluted Dao Master. "Senior brother, much thanks for letting me comprehend Dao Sword." Dao Master got up to return the salute. "I dare not. Human Emperor, of course, has the right to comprehend Dao Sword. I have shown Dao Sword to you, and Rulai will also show Rulai's Mahayana Sutra to you. Human Emperor is worthy of us doing so." Qin Mu said, "I've already seen Rulai's Mahayana Sutra." Dao Master was stunned. After some time, he shook his head and smiled. "This old fellow is still clever and sly, always one step ahead of me. Disciple, hand great educational heavenly devil scriptures back to Human Emperor." Daozi Lin Xian came back to his senses from his comprehension, and immediately pulled great educational heavenly devil scriptures back into a ball of thread, passing it back to Qin Mu with both hands. Qin Mu smiled. "Your age and mine are similar, so there's no need for so many formalities." Daozi Lin Xian shook his head and said, "There's nothing wrong with formalities. I am not yet Dao Master, and will always be your junior." Helpless, Qin Mu said, even though Dao Master had never seen great educational heavenly devil scriptures before, his phrase that it contains evil and good achieved the samadhi of great educational heavenly devil scriptures. "How much good and how much evil did you see when you were comprehending great educational heavenly devil scriptures?" Daozi Lin Xian hesitated for a moment, and Dao Master smiled. He said, "Cult Master Qin is an expert in this field, so just speak your mind." Daozi Lin Xian said, "It might be because first impressions are strongest that when I first read great educational heavenly devil scriptures, I found almost every sentence to be harmful. Only when I read until the writings in the middle did I feel a different flavor to them. At that time, there was no longer righteous or evil in my heart. When I reached the writings at the end, I felt that I might have misinterpreted the writings in front, so I read over them again, and this time I had different thoughts and feelings." Qin Mu smiled and asked, "How many % of them are evil?" "There's still 20%, Daozi Lin Xian replied honestly. Qin Mu said, "Your Dao heart is still 20% devilish. However, you are already much better than Fozi." When Fozi Fushin read great educational heavenly devil scriptures, every part of it was evil to him. He may have had the appearance of a Buddha, but he was an unsalvageable devil in his heart. Daozi Lin Xian was stunned and came to an enlightenment. So that's why. He found it somewhat hard to accept this result in his heart. So he asked Qin Mu with his gaze flickering, when Human Emperor read great educational heavenly devil scriptures, how many % of it was devil? All of the writings in great educational heavenly devil scriptures are righteous writings, but they are also devilish writings. It all depends on how I use them. Daozi Lin Xian was stunned. This? Qin Mu said with a deep meaning, the path of the saint is none other than the everyday use of common people, which is the first sentence of great educational heavenly devil scriptures, already makes things clear. You and I are also part of the common people, so when the hearts of you and I are righteous, great educational heavenly devil scriptures are righteous. When the hearts of you and I are evil, great educational heavenly devil scriptures will be evil. I can use them as a righteous technique, but I can also use them as an evil technique. The wonders of usage lie in one's heart. The wonders of usage lie in one's heart. Daozi Lin Xian was stunned again, and felt that what Qin Mu said was very logical. Old Dao Master immediately shouted, "Tut! Don't listen to his teachings, it's their askew reasoning of being free from nature. You are the next Dao Master, be careful of being bewitched by his clever words and entering his devil cult. Daozi Lin Xian came back to his senses, sweating profusely. His entire body was drenched as he thought to himself, he used the chance to guide me to talk about the teachings of the devil cult, attempting to bewitch me. His teachings of being free from nature are different from my Dao Sect's teachings of Dao following the nature. Old Dao Master said righteously, Cult Master Qin's nature is indeed higher than yours. So you will have to be careful if he comes against you with the identity of the devil cult master in the future. You can't only think of him as the human emperor, and forget that he is also the heavenly devil cult master. Qin Mu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Old Dao Master was actually treating him like severe floods and fierce beasts, paying extra attention to guiding his disciple to prevent him from being pulled into heavenly devil cult. Old Dao Master said, how does human emperor see Dao sword? Qin Mu said solemnly, I struggled with the mathematical reasonings. They were extraordinarily intricate. The last few moves also seemed to transcend from mathematical reasonings and close in on Dao. Old Dao Master smiled as he said words with a deep meaning to them. The Dao sword of my Dao Sect can also be seen as how to accurately measure a circle. The digits of pi are close to endless, and the circular ratio of pi can't conclude with just Shukong and Qingjing, since at the back there are still digits that couldn't be counted. Dao has no end, and pi also has no end, so why is there a need to change Dao? Why is there a need to transform Dao? Qin Mu was stunned. This old Dao Master was propagating righteousness and justice of Dao Sect to him. Dao Master, take care not to overdo it, Qin Mu said with a smile. Old Dao Master laughed and had Daozi Lin Xian take back the stone wall. Human Emperor, your identity is special and there will be quite a number of terrifying enemies. So it's still best for you to return to Great Ruins as soon as possible. The daughter of the Dragon King was sent by me. Could you let old Dao bring her back? Qin Mu looked at the Solomon's seals under their feet, noticing that a few leaves had already grown out from most the herbs. However, there were also some that had already died. You don't have to worry, she will listen to my words and never come back here again. Old Dao Master smiled. You didn't lose anything, while she was the one who lost much. Qin Mu nodded and called Long Jianan forward. The woman endured her pain and stumbled over. Qin Mu asked, are you still going to be my enemy? My Dragon Rider sect was eradicated because of you. I have no choice but to be enemies with you. Without me, your Dragon Rider sect would still have been eradicated. This was simply the reality of your situation. Even if I hadn't been in Heaven Wave City, you guys would still have met the same end, Qin Mu told her. I was there only by coincidence. It's natural for you to hate me, but the next time you come, I will kill you, I won't hold back. Long Jianan gritted her teeth. I won't hold back as well. Qin Mu shook his head. You already have no chance. Don't shed your skin anymore. The more you shed, the older you'll get. Follow Dao Master and leave. Long Jianan stood beside Dao Master in a daze. Every time she met Qin Mu, she would discover that he was stronger than he was previously. The next time she saw him, would she still be his match? Did she still have a chance? However, her wisdom was soon drowned out by her hatred, throwing this momentary daze to the back of her mind. Old Dao Master cupped his fists and said, farewell. Qin Mu returned his salute and rose. Send Dao Master off. Whoosh! All of the Hall Masters, Guardians, and Heavenly Kings of Heavenly Devil Cult stood up and opened up a path. Old Dao Master brought Long Jianan and Daozi Lin Xian out of the island. A cloud then appeared under their feet to bring the three of them away. Qin Mu looked at the Heavenly Devil Cult followers around and waved his hand with a smile. Disperse, disperse. Everyone saluted him and their huge flags swept around them, making them vanish without a trace. However, Heavenly King Yu and Heavenly King Wang remained. It was evident that they were worried about Qin Mu's safety. Qin Mu smiled. No need to be so worried about me, you guys can leave as well. The two heavenly kings looked each other in the eyes. Using their clothes to cover themselves, they vanished on the spot. I don't think they will go far, Cai Yinxiang said. Qin Mu nodded, but Ling Yuxiu was anxious. Great cult master, you only care about putting on airs in front of your subordinates and let them leave. So how are we leaving? Qin Mu hesitated for a moment. He was indeed putting on airs. The elders of the village had taught him to never lose airs even if he lost to others. So he didn't let the followers of Heavenly Devil cult bring him off this island on the East Sea so that he didn't lose face in front of them. Do you think Fan Yunxiao will come back for us? He probed. The two girls laughed grimly and said in unison, he cried so miserably when he left, of course he won't be coming back. Qin Mu muttered, why don't we return back by the sea? We have no choice then. Cai Yinxiang looked back at the spirit spring, a little unwilling to leave. Say, do you think the Solomon seals will still remember us when they wake up? I don't know. Qin Mu turned back and saw the overflowing greenery beside the spirit spring and shook his head. They died once, so if they had souls, they should have already landed into the dark Yudu. Yet their bodies will come back to life. As for whether their souls will still be the original ones and their memories their original memories, or whether a new soul will be born in their bodies with their memories like a sheet of blank paper, I do not know. Cai Yinxiang was slightly depressed. But she saw Qin Mu and Ling Yuxiu already on the sea surface, so she immediately chased after them. A wave grew under Qin Mu's feet, and continued to surge forth like a dragon head, carrying them toward the west. Meanwhile, at another place, Grand Shaman received news from Pangong Tso and immediately left Roland's Golden Palace to head to the west. He walked for a long time around the vast great ruins, traveling through the snow mountains and into the flaming desert. He came to West Earth and climbed the highest peak there. The golden peak of this divine mountain was empty, with only a sacrificial altar remaining. Grand Shaman took out 3 incenses and lighted them. The smoke rose in spirals and reached high heavens. Where the smoke vanished, a green-colored face appeared in the sky, almost blending with the blue sky. The new human emperor has appeared, Grand Shaman said while burning incense to pay his respect. The green face in the sky was very huge, and seemed to be formed by smoke which was light and faint. However, as it started coming lower, it gradually became clearer. Fine beads of sweat emanated from Grand Shaman's forehead, and his head fell down, the man too afraid to lift it up. High heavens! A faintly discernible voice came from the sky. Got it. Grand Shaman stood motionless. The golden peak of the divine mountain was very cold, yet his sweat kept dripping down, drop after drop. After a long time, he secretly raised an eye to look up at the sky and saw that it was clear blue. The face had vanished some time ago. Grand Shaman let out a sigh of relief and quickly left to get away from here as far as possible. A long time later, tiny flames appeared on the golden peak and shook like ripples. When they stopped shaking, 2 golden-eyed swannies galloped out from the flames while pulling a treasured carriage. An imperial canopy was erected in its center, and under it were items like jade and pearls that formed a hanging screen. On top of the imperial canopy were 3 golden peaks that were circular lumps, each smaller than the one above it. There were 4 golden pillars supporting the imperial canopy, which were as thick as an arm and were 7 feet tall. Besides each pillar stood a beautiful maiden, their vital chi forming a ring at the back of their heads. Their robes fluttered in the wind, and they were all wearing different colored attire. The maiden in green was carrying a jade vase in her hand, the maiden in red was hugging a 7-stringed guqin, the maiden in yellow was carrying a sword in both of her hands, while the maiden in white was hugging a peeper. Under the imperial canopy, and past the jade and pearls, a man in purple, could be seen sitting upright. He was still and had an extraordinary atmosphere. The two Swanees' bodies overflowed with brilliant lights and vibrant colors as they stepped on auspicious clouds while pulling the treasure carriage at a lightning-fast speed toward Middle-earth. The treasure carriage wasn't careful like Grand Shaman, who had avoided the vast great ruins. This carriage just drove straight in, leaving a trail of light as it rushed toward Eternal Peace Empire. The people in the carriage seemed to not mind the dangers of great ruins at all. When night fell, darkness enveloped the land, and the two Swanees emanated flames that rose into the sky. They were extremely eye-catching in the darkness, as they pulled the treasured carriage in the dark. Devil Chi poured and suddenly transformed into a pitch-black palm that darted toward the treasured carriage, and the glow given off by the Swanees. Every place it passed by, light was swallowed and only darkness was left. When the pitch-black palm came in front of the treasured carriage, no light could be seen, and the pearl curtain swayed as the maiden in red played her guqin, giving off two sounds of ding and dong. Once guqin sound echoed in the air, the pitch-black palm paused slightly and moved back. "High heavens," a raspy voice asked from the darkness. That maiden in red nodded and said, "High heavens, Star Sovereign Xiao." The monster in the darkness retreated and vanished without a trace. From then on, no more monsters went to disturb the treasured carriage. Even though great ruins in the darkness seemed incomparably dangerous, it was still pretty bustling at night. All kinds of terrifying things were active, and all kinds of bizarre incidents were happening one after another. The treasured carriage drove toward the east in a neither too fast nor too slow pace. The Star Sovereign Xiao under the imperial canopy looked at the current great ruins and shook his head. The remaining evils have not yet been purged, and poison still remains. The treasured carriage flew in the sky, leaving a streak across the darkness. Looking up from below, it seemed like there was a star that moving neither too fast nor too slow across the horizon. The night of great ruins was shrouded by the darkness, and there were no stars nor moon in the sky, so most of the villagers and strange beasts hiding in the ruins couldn't help raising their heads to look up at the sight that they had never seen before. Suddenly, the stars started to descend urgently, crashing into great ruins from the sky. This made all the people and strange beasts that were watching sigh in pity. Boom! The treasured carriage descended diagonally toward the source of surging river. The two mountains in the darkness were like a gate, and the treasured carriage came down in the middle between them. The two Swanees struggled to control the descent, but no matter what, they couldn't do it. In the end, they couldn't help yelping. The four maidens on the carriage were also flustered. They realized that they had become skeletons some time ago. The four maidens looked ahead of them and saw the two Swanees that were pulling the carriage had also become two galloping skeletons. Under the imperial canopy, there was another skeleton. He was calm and composed as he snorted coldly. "To pull my carriage down, could it be that Fengju's evil intentions are still not dead yet?" In the darkness and fog in front of them, there seemed to be huge shadows standing around. There were even red lights lighting up in the fog, and what looked like lanterns followed the treasured carriage as it moved. Those weren't lanterns though, but eyes. The shadows gradually faded, and the red lights vanished one after another as well. This video will end here.